Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hog Side. Good news, training camp starts this week, thank goodness. Colt McCoy, he came out just today, actually, on ESPN 980, and was very supportive of Griffin. He also says that he thinks he can be a starter in the NFL. I don't even think his mom necessarily bought that one. Chris Cooley wants to make a comeback, and he drew some interest from the Cardinals. Chris, please don't do it. I don't think I can deal with the entire season of just Larry and Sonny on the radio. Tom Brady, he could be suing the NFL, and Twitter's melting down about that. And finally, the Skins just signed a rookie running back, Mac Brown, and nobody probably knows much about him, but we'll give you what little we do know. All that and more on this week's episode of The Hogsty.
It's the Hogsty.
Do it!
All right, and welcome everybody. We have a small crew this week. This is Alex talking to you. Sean's out sick, but I do have, thank God, he's back. Robbie Duncan. How's it going there, Robbie?
Good, guys. How you guys doing?
Good, good. You look well rested from your vacation.
I had a splendid vacation.
Excellent.
Week in Disney and then a week on a cruise to Cozumel, Mexico. It was
and you didn't gain all that lineman weight back.
No, the week in Disney helped that, all that walking and stuff.
Oh, good stuff. And then, of course, we have Steve back with us. Hey, Steve, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm not as good as Robbie. I have not been on vacation. I've been working for the past 2 weeks, so I'm not well rested.
Yeah, and you guys have been having that nice weather down there, too. So
it's been okay.
Yeah. A lot of time indoors, I'm betting.
I'll survive somehow.
Yeah.
The AC is really good today.
Yeah.
It hasn't been as hot or as miserable as other years down here in South Texas, actually. So
you're getting what we had last year. All right. Well, let's get into this. Let's get into this, guys. Tom Brady, he said he could be suing the NFL, and the commissioner sounds like he's standing pat in his 4-game suspension. Steve, is this just a bunch of Twitter hubbub, or what's going on?
Well, it's not necessarily just Twitter hubbub. The rumor out of the NFL front office is that Roger Goodell may stand on the original 4-game suspension, and in the appeal will uphold the original assessment. The rumor, if that happens, is that Tom Brady wants to sue the NFL. What I said weeks ago about this is still applicable. I think a lawsuit is a tough road to hoe for Tom Brady for a variety of reasons. I think at the end of the day, he may just see the error of his ways, and I would suspect that this is going to probably go away. I think it's a lot more to do about the fact that this is Tom Brady and the Patriots we're talking about than an actual controversy. Just my opinion.
Well, yeah, Goodell, apparently, a couple of rumors going around now, too, that a lot of the owners are in his ear really pushing for him to uphold this original suspension. So that seems kind of shady, too, right, Steve?
Well, I don't think it's shady, but if you think about the circumstances here, the NFL did commission a multi-million-dollar report. And the multi-million-dollar report found that the Patriots and Tom Brady were liable in accordance with the standard of proof required by the collective bargaining agreement. And I think what the other owners are saying is, if you bow to the incredible pressure put on the league office by the fans, more or less, in the media, because it's the Patriots, it's really not an equitable resolution of the problem. Because, you put this in like Jacksonville or somewhere, and none of this is even a question. Or for that matter, the Redskins. It's only because it's such a high-profile team. So I don't think the owners are really doing anything inappropriate. I'll tell you what's the most inappropriate thing, honestly, is that Roger Goodell is the appellate authority.
Yeah.
Because he is not a neutral.
Yeah.
He's not a neutral arbitrator at all. That is the fundamental problem. It's the CBA problem, though, more than anything. It's nothing that's going to be fixed anytime soon. So
I just wish this whole story would go away.
Yeah.
It's been at that point for about 3 months.
Well, then pray that Tom Brady does not file a lawsuit. If he files a lawsuit, it's going to be a couple years.
I'm hoping.
Just announce the decision already, too. I mean, why the holdup,
Well, it took him,
Lawyers making
months.
money is the lie.
It took him months and months to get Greg Hardy's appeal done, though. Remember?
That's true.
It's a lot of evidence to consider. Anyway, let's move on from Tom Brady,
let's
for
move
goodness
on
sakes.
to some more fun news, some Skins news, because that's what we care about here. So real quick, the Redskins did sign a running back. They had an open spot in training camp, and they used it on a guy named Mac Brown. He's an undrafted player out of Florida, so he's got some familiar faces around him with our other running back,
Matt Jones,
who we took in the third round. So we got Mac and Nat.
yeah.
They'll have their own little 90s sitcom spy team thing going on.
The question, I guess, is does anybody think this guy can contribute to the team? Honestly,
Well,
I didn't watch a lot about him.
Training
in
camp
Florida.
fodder.
Yeah, I
There you
think
go.
he's fodder. He apparently played he was originally with the Texans. He was undrafted, and they picked him up for a while, and they cut him. And so now he's with us. So he knows the guys who will be scrimmaging against, I guess. Maybe he's there for Gruden to get some background info on. I don't know. Just some real quick numbers out there. Nothing really stands out nothing stands out about a lot of these Florida guys. They did a whole running back by committee thing. Mm-hmm. So nothing wows me. But he's 5'11", 214, so a bit smaller than Jones.
And credit to Mike Jones for tweeting out the stats on this guy. And I mean, man, this is so glad we have him to put up this kind of production. He had 22 carries for 95 yards last season. So we got
That's Mac Brown's stats.
that's his.
He's got fresh legs, is what we can say.
Whoa.
That's the silver
Hey,
lining.
Wow, I do have a question for our X's and O's guy, though. What is so special about Matt Jones? The fan base is all excited about the guy. I don't understand why everybody thinks he's such a great pass catcher. He's going to be such an advantage to the team. What is it about the guy?
I think everybody's excited about him being really solid in pass pro. That's because that's what he's known for. Or at least that's what they're telling us he's known for. But I've seen it myself on film. But, I mean, he's not going to be some guy that's going to come in and take over for Alfred right off the bat. That's what people need to realize. But I think for me, the reason why I'm optimistic about him is because it seems to me that the team is very optimistic about him. Scott, I mean, McLuhan obviously was in love with him to take him in the third round when he was projected to be a sixth-round pick. So you never know.
I think there's two things that stand out about him whenever you see people talking about him. One is what you just said. McLuhan loved the guy. He told Frank Gore, this guy's the next you. Mm-hmm. So, that's a pretty ringing endorsement when McLuhan's saying that about a guy that he thinks he's another Frank Gore. And then you look at his size. He's a big beast of a running back.
Yeah.
And even though Morris is definitely a bruiser, he doesn't ever strike you as that kind of physical, I'm going to hit a guy and knock him over type of running back.
I just can't get too excited about a third-round pick who hasn't played, though. That's because we've been burned about this before. Not burned, but we've had a whole list of people to get excited about in training camp, and
It's a crapshoot
none of them ever
in the
done
third
anything.
round. It really is.
We've been hurt before.
Oh, yes, we have.
We definitely need a good blocking back. Did you watch him enough to know whether he's a legit blocking back or not, Robbie?
Yeah, I've seen him hit some guys in pass pro. I mean, he takes pride in it. I mean, he's not. I wouldn't say he's rock solid in it. He's not perfect, but he's definitely
not Clinton Portising it.
Yeah, he definitely is better than what we've had. So that's a good thing.
What is it? Why is pass pro so tough for these running backs?
Just because they're they want to run the ball. They don't want to. I don't think they take it seriously. They do what they have to do, and that's that. But,
well, how many colleges really use a lot of pass protection from the running back now is another question.
Speaking for my team, we did a lot of pass pro with the running back. I mean, we ran the ball, but then when we were passing, it was almost always 4 wide receivers and then a running back in a spread formation style, and we'd set the protection one way, and the running back would pick up the backside. So that's usually what it is, but it can kind of get complicated when you got to pick up these complicated blitzes and stuff.
Well, I mean, I hope he becomes the next Clinton Portis, for goodness sakes. When it comes to pass pro, because I mean, I realize we need him. I don't mean to be down on the guy. I feel like I'm always the Debbie Downer type for these people, but that's not my intention.
No, you're right.
But I just wanted to know.
We do need to be grounded because Redskin fans in general we really get hyped up about each rookie class. And
because like last year it was Ryan Grant,
Yeah.
and this year it's Matt Jones. And honestly, got to be honest. I mean, I hope Ryan Grant pans out, but I saw a guy who's not very dynamic in Ryan Grant. That's my, I mean, he's got great hands. He runs great routes, but at some point in the NFL, you've got to be dynamic, and I don't see it.
He's just a guy that does his job and not much more than that.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, that's all I had about it. So let's move on. Sorry.
Okay, so next topic. Colt McCoy, he came out and says that he thinks he could be a starter in the NFL. I can't buy into it. Anyone want to talk me out of that?
Robbie's literally laughing about it.
That's my answer.
No.
No, look, can I be Colt McCoy's defender here a little bit?
Go ahead.
I will recognize that he has a noodle arm. I don't think he has a Pat White level noodle arm, but in terms of an NFL starter, it's just not good. But
no, it's John Beck level noodle arm.
Yeah, exactly. He has a good head on his shoulders. He understands Jay Gruden's offense. I think he performs well mentally, but it's just that his physical limitations will prevent him from ever becoming a full-time starter, I think. But I think where he can be of value is that if Kirk Cousins leaves for whatever reason, Colt McCoy may just be a perfect backup.
I think so too. I like him as a backup.
But as a starter, I mean, I think he can do a spot starter thing for us. If Griffin, play this out, if Griffin stays, theoretically, he's going to have injuries. And so it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have Colt McCoy come in for a game or two here or there. I think he would probably do fine. Mm-hmm. But in terms of him being a full-time starter, I think he's living in dreamland.
Yeah. So you're defending him by saying, no, he can't be a starter, basically.
Okay, I didn't do a very good job defending him, I guess.
Steve, you're no longer our lawyer.
Well, okay, no. See, I was trying to defend his talent as an NFL quarterback because I think he is one. And if you put him in the right system, who knows? Maybe he could start. I just don't think it's really for the Redskins.
Well, allow me to be devil's advocate. He sucks.
Okay.
No.
Look, I was at the St. Louis Rams game, which was probably his worst game. And, I think he can get away with being in there for a half of a game, maybe a full game when you need it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see Colt McCoy starting if Griffin's down for a month. I mean, he just doesn't have that kind of talent.
Yeah, season's over if that's the case.
Yeah, but he does understand the offense.
Oh, I think he gets the cerebral side. Don't get me wrong, and let's be honest, that's a huge part of playing quarterback.
Yeah, I think he understands it better than Kirk Cousins. And if somebody had to start,
understands it better than Griffin.
Probably.
Well, that may be true. And I guess I'll defend him by saying this: if you have to pick somebody to start besides Griffin, I'd rather it be McCoy.
Yeah.
Because I think Kirk Cousins is more of a mess than we realize, is what I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And our friend, Slick Rick, is not going to agree with that. Fine.
Well,
but that's what I think.
Yeah, I'm ready for the Kirk Cousins era to be over next year.
No, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, speaking of guys whose eras is over, I want to talk about one of my all-time favorite Redskins players from the last couple decades, and that is Chris Cooley. He's saying that he might make a comeback, and then the Cardinals kind of came in and said, "Oh, we're interested." He's kind of putting it all on hold now. I think he might have just been kind of shooting from the hip when talking, and then things got serious.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? He's not that old. I mean, he definitely would be in the age range of a lot of NFL players. But
he's living in dreamland too, man. He hasn't played for 3 seasons. He hasn't played for 3 seasons. We all loved him, okay, but he wasn't the most athletic guy in the first place. He got by on hands. He was in a good system for it with Joe Gibbs, starting with Joe Gibbs and the H-back thing we did all the time.
He was a great route runner, too.
He was a great route runner.
He could find space in the defense like nobody else.
But he's going to be slower. He's going to be weaker than he was. Mm-hmm. I just can't see it. I think he's having an early midlife crisis or something.
I feel bad for him because a lot of players have a hard time with giving it up. He's feeling that itch, and I felt the same way. I want to say last year. I had buddies of mine that left college and got shots to the NFL, and I was like, man, I feel like I could still do that too. You really, it's just hard to give up for some guys, and I'm surprised he didn't do this sooner. To be honest,
But you know what, though? I mean, he's got a good gig going.
Yeah.
I also think that part of the problem with these guys is they don't have anything else to do. You play in the NFL for 10 years and it's your life, and all of a sudden it's gone, and now you're hanging around. Like, you guys watch the HBO show Ballers? You ever seen this show? There's one character on there that's an offensive lineman. I can't remember his name. And for the first couple of episodes, he was hanging around the house. And his wife said, you got to get out of the house and go get a job. And he ends up at a car dealership, and it's an honorable profession, But that guy missed the itch.
You're not making the same money, and you're starting at the bottom again. That's got to be tough for a lot of guys.
Cooley still has no notoriety. He's still around the team. I don't know how much he makes at 980, but he's making a decent living at it for sure. I think he'd be a fool to give that up.
I mean, and I'm assuming he seems like the kind of guy who didn't blow all his money, although I know he got divorced at one point.
Yeah.
Who knows how that turned out for him.
And now he's got a kid, too.
Yeah.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. He's got a kid now. I mean, I love Cooley. He's, like I said, he's probably my favorite player from the Joe Gibbs era.
He's making, but my point is, he's got a career lined up here. He could stay at 980 and do Redskin games for 20 years if he wanted to.
Oh, more than that.
I don't know why he would.
And Sonny have been doing it for 100 years.
Throw it to Cooley.
Yeah.
I just think, because if he gives it up and goes to play for the Cardinals, they're going to hire somebody else, and there's no guarantee to ever get his job back.
Well,
I
think it'd be a fool.
The Cardinals were just using him, too, to get Jermaine Gresham to go there. I think they were just using him as a say, hey, if you don't sign here, we're just going to sign Chris Cooley, and you're going to miss out on some money. So,
well, let me ask you, Robbie. Do you think now, after you've been out for 2 years now?
Yeah.
Is that when you stopped?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you could go hit the gym for a little bit and walk in and do it again after all this time?
I think technique wise, it's like riding a bike. I still remember how to play it, but the game shape, football shape, is Mike Shanahan made so famous in saying. That would take a serious adjustment. Getting hit again after being away for 2 years, it's a shock to the system.
I mean,
and you're a lot younger now
picking
too.
Up the speed and stuff like that. I'd imagine even readjusting to that stuff.
Yeah, the speed would be. Yeah, you've been sitting on your ass for 2 years, and now you're trying to play professional football.
I think a guy like you in his mid-20s would do it a lot easier than Cooley too, who's already past his prime.
That's true. The argument against though, he's I think like 33 years old right now, right?
Something like that.
I mean, argument can be made that since he's been gone for these 2 years, he doesn't have as much tread on his tires like these other 33-year-old NFL players.
2 years of healing.
2 years of healing and rest, and now he's ready to go. But I don't know.
Yeah, but you know what though? He kind of lost a step. By the end of his time here, he didn't look like the same player.
Yeah, he played a lot older than he was.
Right.
Well, the type of hits he was so good at taking, where he would absorb them with the lower body and just keep going, it seems like those took a toll on him, even though that's what made him effective, was the ability to just shake guys off.
Yeah. I love Chris Cooley, by the way, too, like you, Alex. He's one of my favorite guys. I hate to see him ruin his legacy by going out there and looking like a shell of himself in Arizona or some stupid place like that.
Yeah,
I like him where
don't
he
do
is.
what Babe Ruth did, Chris. Don't go play for some other team that you didn't love you, and don't be a shell of what you were.
Amen.
And kind of what you were saying earlier, Steve. He has a dream job that most sport fans want. He has his own radio show where he can talk sports, all radio show. Plus, he gets to do live broadcast of every Redskins game.
Yeah, travel with the team. Remember
team?
How he
he
talked about how important it was with him to travel with the team and be around the team.
Yeah,
and I heard somewhere that Clinton Portis is going to be doing hits on 980. Sideline.
Yeah, he's doing sidelines. I think for preseason. I can't remember.
Please God, be better than Antoine Randall L.
Oh yeah.
Or what? Or what's the
Doc
other?
Walker.
Doc Walker's good.
He's pretty good. I like Doc Walker.
It gets a little tight end heavy on those shows.
There was that linebacker too that did sideline interviewing and reporting.
It was Ken Harvey.
Ken Harvey. God, I felt bad for him. He was pretty bad too.
He was out of his element. But Clinton Portis talks in such a southern drawl and southern slang.
Yeah.
When he speaks in his pattern of speech, I wonder how good he's going to be at it because of that.
He can't be worse than Ken Harvey or Antoine Randall.
Ken Harvey didn't have the drawl to him. He just wasn't very good at it.
Ken Harvey looked like he was like not there. He looked blank faced. You ever noticed that?
I mean, I'm excited by the idea that Chris Cooley could be the play-by-play guy, or not play-by-play guy, the color guy for us for a long time. I want to have my grandkids sitting there and listening to Chris Cooley and some other old player from around this era, and I can be like, I saw them back in the day when.
Oh, and but Sam Huff is still going to be there, or Sonny Jurgensen rather is still going to be on the broadcast. You know that.
He'll be sounding like Darth Vader at that point.
He'll keep saying, "Throw it to Cooley," and Chris is like, "I'm right here, Sonny." Yeah.
We all love Sonny, but I think Sonny's time is about at its end.
We saw with Sam. They kept Sam around a little too long too.
I had the pleasure of meeting Sam Huff once a few years ago, and it was very nice. I was honored to meet him, but he was clearly getting old.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are old.
Nothing wrong with that. He is old.
Yeah. Yeah, just get rid of Larry. That's the real thing.
I don't have a problem with Larry Michaels that you guys do. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm not there anymore.
Well, I'll say this about Larry Michael. The thing that's bothers me is the over what's the word, homerism. I watched the game while listening to their broadcast, and there's a play, say for example, where one of our guys clearly fumbles the ball, like it's a plain as day, and then you'll hear him say on the broadcast, I remember this clearly. It's like, I'm not so sure about that one. I think that one is that's not a fumble.
No,
and then Chris is like, Larry,
he dropped the ball.
Chris is looking at him like, Larry, that's a fumble, dude.
I think Cooley's one of the better analysts I've ever heard.
Yeah.
At any level.
I think he does a great job.
Yeah, and maybe it's because he knows the Redskins so well or something, but the way he breaks down film for idiots like you and me, Alex, who aren't football guys, he breaks it down in a way that the fans really understand, but he does it in a technical way. I really think he's very, very good at it.
Yeah, I think he's second only to maybe Bullock and Robbie Duncan there when it comes to breakdown.
He's better than me. He knows the overall game more than I do. All I know is O-line and D-line pretty much.
Sure.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, if you'd spent 10 years in the NFL, you'd know it like he would.
That's true.
We need to get you out there and play for a couple years so you can have a perspective like that, Robbie.
Yeah, I'll go on a sabbatical and come back.
Well, you could always.
You got to be better than Morgan Moses or somebody, for goodness sakes. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that does kind of spin right into the main topic of this event.
You want to do training camp, though?
That's what I was about to get into.
Crap, sorry. You have to edit that. My mistake. I thought you were about to do O-line.
No, I'm not going to edit that. That makes it even better.
I will shut up now.
All right,
Continue,
so
Mr. Host.
Steve broke it. Let's talk training camp. And Steve, I think you're the one who said you were going to do a write-up on the things to watch and things like that, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Training camp, first of all, it starts on July 30th, which is Thursday. Everybody, veterans and rookies, both report on Wednesday.
I'll be there.
Good. Robbie, our own Robbie Duncan will be there.
Yeah. Press pass free, sadly, but we did convince Robbie and Sean to go.
Yeah.
We tried for our audience to get media credentials. We do not merit high enough in the eyes of the Redskins PR staff just yet. So give us another year for that.
I appealed this to them, but Tony Wiley emailed me back, said no means no. So
there you go. I sort of did get a similar response to that, by the way, from the PR staff. No means no. Yeah. Here's a little bit of history on training camp. If we did, for those of you who didn't know, it was from 1946 to 1962. We actually did training camp in Los Angeles. But where most of us remember is Carlisle, Pennsylvania, Dixon College.
You actually taught me something I didn't know there.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't honestly know it either until I started looking this up. Cool. We were in Carlisle from 1963 to 1994. Throughout all of the glory years, where I think some of us probably go back to is the mid '90s. We were in Frostburg, Maryland. Remember? Mm-hmm. We were at Redskins Park. Yeah. Well, that was 1995 to 1999. Redskins Park for 1 year, 2000. We spent a few more years in Carlisle after that, from 2003 to 2012, and we've been in Richmond, Virginia, from 2013 ever since. The facility in Richmond was a $10 million project that was built by public funds with a little tiny bit of contribution from the Redskins. What's interesting about that and how it ties into training camp this year is that the practice schedule has been reversed. Last year, we did main practice in the morning, and then the afternoon was a walkthrough. What the rumor is that the Richmond area businesses were not happy about it because a lot of people left after the morning main practice, and so they missed out on a big lunch crowd and everything else. So the rumor was this year that the Redskins flip-flopped it to keep people in town for lunch because the more interesting practice is in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. The team denied that, of course, and said, no, we're just moving things around. But it makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
Well, yeah, and they've been reporting pretty recently, too. I was following on Twitter. Richmond's been losing a lot of money from they've been not making as much money as they anticipated with this, and it's probably not going to last.
I'm shocked to hear that. Shocked, I say.
Well, it'll last a couple more years, I think. Because honestly, what else are they going to do with this facility? It's probably the primary income generator from the facility for the year, I would think.
Well, not to mention that facility is probably nicer than what we have up at Ashburn still.
Well, this brings up another point, actually, because, I just went over the history of training camp. When we were in L.A., it was at Occidental College. When you were in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, it was Dickinson College. Frostburg was Frostburg State. Those are a bunch of deep, in the middle of nowhere, no doubt crummy facilities. It's really rough in it. I don't know if that's more beneficial than having a nicer, more developed facility, like Richmond, because obviously Richmond's state of the art. I would think we probably get more out of that than going to God knows where in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania.
Well, I think those are also different eras of the NFL that you're talking about too. And that probably plays a big factor in it. Players these days, I don't know if they would accept going to a small third-tier school to live there for 2 weeks in dorms anymore.
I bet you there's teams that do it.
I would be curious because I believe a lot of teams have moved away from it in the last few years.
Probably so. And also it's part of it is a fan interaction thing. Because there's not going to be like the record before the Robert Griffin era for attendance was 29,337. That came in 2011. That's for the fan attendance at training camp. There is no way that we'd get almost 30,000 people in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. That just would not happen. And I think we beat that record in 2012, by the way, for one of the Griffin era practices. But so that's part of it is, the teams want the fans there.
And then I think it's a smart move because
well, and then you have somebody like Dallas, who goes to LA. And they're trying to build up their brand and everything else.
Right.
I think a lot of this also plays into the fact that Virginia wants the stadium, and so they want to make the Redskins happy.
Yeah.
With the Richmond facility, it gets the team away from Redskins Park, but it's still nice, and the fans can still do it. I think it's perfect as long as Richmond doesn't lose enough money. That's all.
Well, not to tangent too much here, but since we're talking possibly Virginia wanting to have the stadium built there, I know we've kind of touched on it, but where, Steve, do you really see that happening?
The stadium?
Yeah, where would they build that? Do you think, if you had to say?
There's some here. I don't know where the sites are, but I can tell you kind of the process. Part of it is there has to be 70 to 80 acres probably, if not a little more than that. Not necessarily raw land, but developed land that is not developed in such a way that it's going to be too hard to buy, too expensive to buy, and it'll be too expensive to demolish. And it can't be land that's owned by too many parties because you just have a ton of issues. Jack Kent Cooke had a lot of problems finding enough land in the DMV area to do that. I think, having said all that, I've been telling you guys for weeks now that I think there's too many land use issues in DC. part of the reason is that the stadium site is actually owned by the federal government. There's rules and restrictions on things like how big and how tall things can be in Washington D.C. and other things. I think there's more available dirt in Virginia, somewhere outside of the Beltway. Somewhere down, 66 somewhere is probably, if I had to guess, having said all of what I just said, I think that's probably where it's going to be. But I have no inside knowledge at all.
Well, I'll tell you, the site that they've said they're looking at is past 66. It's after 66 even ends at Dulles, and they go even further out to into Loudoun County.
About that's a long
10,
way, man.
Yeah, you may as well put it in Baltimore at that point. I mean, it's literally you're going that far away from the city.
As long as it's near the metro, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's what they're talking about. It's supposedly going to be by one of the new metro stops after they get past Dulles.
Mm-hmm. I think at some point, though, they're going to have to think about how far out you want to put something like that. I mean, they realize that, I've said before, it's all about the deal and it's all about the money, and, it is. But at some point, you have to think about the fans, because you're not going to make Prince George's County fans. You wouldn't want to make PG County fans drive to Dulles for a football game,
right?
And
you don't. I'll tell you, you don't really want to put it that far past the Beltway, because then you're talking about highway access, even.
Yeah. So I think in answer to your question, if I had to rank order the available possible sites, taking into consideration the politics of the situation, the politics of the name, and the availability of the sites, I'd probably rank order it Virginia, Maryland, D.C. And I know that goes against the great common, that maybe the
it goes against what people want. Yeah,
it also goes against what some of the analysts have said, because you had was it Kime or somebody this week said that he thought DC was most likely. I just think there's way too many politics in the situation to do that, and I think there's not a lot. If you get away from RFK Stadium, there's zero available land in DC to do something like that.
Two other spots you could do it.
It's really tough, man. I'm telling you.
I don't think it's easy, but I'm telling you, there's two spots I can tell you off the top of my head. One is the old reservoir, which is just like it's technically a historic site, but it's just a big patch of grass at this point. I don't know if you guys have been up there.
No.
And the other would be Poplar Point.
Which is where?
Right across the river from Nats Park.
Oh, okay. So that's my thought. I mean, at the end of the day, here's what's going to come down to.
Or tear down Congress, and we can put it there. I'm okay with that.
A lot of people are with you on that one. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to this: what state government will pay the most money. How this works typically is that a state or the local government will issue bonds. And what that is people will buy a bond, and what they'll say is what happens is that the bond, it's paid for up front, and then the state or the government will pay back the bond in time, and then they take the income from the bond and build a stadium. That's how it works. And they'll institute, the favorite thing to do is institute hotel taxes and car rental taxes, because it's really taxing visitors. Which is actually unconstitutional, but they get away with it.
Yeah.
Because
by the way, when I was in New York City, I had to pay a tax for a hotel. I think for the Giants Stadium in New Jersey.
Well, you're paying it for almost any city you go to that has a sports team. I'm just telling you.
But the stadium's not even in that state.
Yeah, but it's still the New York metropolitan area. So having said all that, I still think Virginia is probably the most likely. There's political issues in Maryland. One, there's the Ravens. Two, it's a politically liberal state, and they have the name issue. And neither of those are present in Virginia. So I think Virginia is the front runner.
I did just see something. I didn't read the whole article, but PG County is apparently starting to make a push to keep them at the current site. And I didn't get the details, but that's another... just another article. Every week we're going to have another article about this for another 10 years. So,
well, and I'll tell you, I was involved very, very on the very minor outskirts of that, of the PG County negotiations many years ago. And PG County really stepped up. They really showed the Redskins that they wanted the team. They made a lot of concessions, financial concessions, in the form of taxes and other things, approval for the site that no other area wanted to make. And it was PG County, above all else, that stepped up. So maybe they will again. You know, it was really the county commissioner's last name was Curry.
Yeah,
and he passed away.
He's gone.
Yeah, so who knows how the current leadership feels about it, but a major reason why the stadium is in PG County today is because of Curry and because of how that county stepped up when no one else did. So maybe they'll do it again.
Well,
a big
I
part of
like
the
that
problem
option better than out and loud.
Yeah, well, a big part of the problem in Virginia was that the residents did not want the stadium in their neighborhood. It sounded really great right up until the time when they realized there was going to be 80,000 people in their backyard every weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I was living in Arlington at the time when they were talking about putting it on the Potomac right there. So I have vague memories of what was going on politically at that point. And it was a lot of NIMBY, and my parents were probably part of that. No, we don't want the stadium in Arlington kind of movement.
Well, you know, and part of you says, you know, how can you blame them? You know,
Yeah.
who would want a stadium in your backyard?
Yeah.
You know, maybe us on the podcast,
wouldn't
but
mind
not
that.
many else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you live by like 8 stadiums now. You're good to go.
Yeah.
All college, but
Yeah. That's true.
A little bit different story.
yeah.
College is a little easier to deal with.
Yeah.
I
Anything
see
else
if
on training camp you got
I'm
there?
trying to see. Well, yeah, I think we
kinda
got
got
to
off
go
track.
over training camp headlines and storylines. What do you think, Robbie? What are our storylines we need to watch out for?
Well, not a little shameless plug here. If you guys haven't already read my blog post about it, please check it out on thehogsty.com/theblogsty, I believe.
Yeah,
in
I
our
love
blog.
alliteration.
Yeah, you gotta love it. Really, the top thing, again, whenever you talk Redskins, it always comes to Robert, and that's just the way it is. You can't dodge it. Really, the whole thing is going to be how Robert is playing, how he's doing. Is he getting better? Is he, showing progress in his pocket work and protecting himself? All the stuff that quarterbacks do, other than the running and the stuff he did, that he normally does. Other than that, I also think big deal is how well our offensive line will show. Obviously, Brandon Scherf is going to be getting a big trial by fire this training camp. He'll be going against Ryan Kerrigan all camp, and then when the Texans come in to say hello, he'll be matched up against J.J. Watt
Yeah, that's
the
big.
whole time. So that
I'm stunned that Robbie Duncan thinks the offensive line is a major story.
you gotta have the beef up front, man.
Well, now, Robbie, I got a kind of question for you. Going against the Texans, do you think they'll be going, 100%, full speed there?
Oh, yeah.
In that, because it is a practice after all. So I know, avoiding injuries also is key.
If they follow, I assume this is just assumption here, but every camp, even in college, we're a lot like how the NFL does, where we don't really ever practice with full contact where we're tackling to the ground. We'd have maybe one segment each practice or every other practice where we do like a period, 5 minutes worth of full contact football. That's
Like game speed?
Yeah, game speed. I think that's exactly what they'll do. They'll have, they'll be in full pads here and there, but they'll just do thud, as they call it, where they'll just you wrap them up, hit them hard, but don't bring them to the ground. And then
Correct me if I'm wrong. If that happens, our very own Brandon Scherf is going to be lined up primarily on J.J. Watt, right?
Yeah. That's going to be
Our whole line's going to get a workout that day.
yeah, especially
but
and Trent Williams isn't going to have an easy camp either. I mean, he's got
Clowney.
Yeah, Clowney's going to be going against him when he comes.
is Clowney even going to be active? I mean, he's got that microfracture surgery he's coming back from. He's not activated yet.
That's a good point.
Well, Vince Wilfork will be there.
And for that matter, is Trent Williams even going to be there? The man hasn't played a single bit in preseason thus far. He's got his continuing ankle problem.
Yeah. If not,
I'm worried about him.
I am too. He needs to show he can stay healthy more. But other than the offensive line, we have some new guys on safety we've talked about before. We're going to have a big battle at strong safety with Jerron Johnson and Duke Iheanacho. I'm just going to call him Nacho. But,
that's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm lazy.
It's all preseason. It's been a big subject among all the beat reporters. Every time they were at these practices where they could watch, well, it looks like Duke Iheanacho's the front runner, but it just happened to be at the time. Every time they were there, he was the starter for the day. So,
have you watched film on him, Robbie?
No,
Nacho?
I can't say that I have.
Yeah, me neither. Alex, what do you know about him? Do you know anything about his play?
I just know he started in Denver for a year, and then they went crazy in free agency and brought in a bunch of, former Pro Bowlers.
They brought in that guy T.J. Ward, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, Ward's better than him, but it's not like Iheanacho was a guy that they needed an immediate upgrade over. I think they just...
Well, also, think about even if he's not as good as Ward, think about who he's replacing here in D.C.
Yeah, it's... he'll
if he's a C-plus level, safety, that's a huge upgrade for us.
Yeah, and that's...
Because we've had Fs for a long time.
That's what I touched on in the blog as well about Deshaun Goldson. I mean, I'm not so sure how good he'll be. I mean, he was pretty bad in Tampa. He's not really much of a cover safety, but neither was Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark couldn't cover anybody.
Ryan Clark could barely walk.
Yeah, so Goldson will definitely be an upgrade for him. I'm going to keep an eye on him too when I'm there to see how he does. Then we also have a couple other position battles to keep an eye on for everybody. We have
backup running back.
We're going to have Alfred Morris and Matt Jones, the front runners, obviously, but the back end is going to be pretty stiff. You got Trey Williams.
Going for that number 3 spot.
Yep, you got Trey Williams, Chris Thompson, Silas Red.
And now Mac.
And yeah.
Well, one of the beat writers this week, it might have been Snyder or Chandler, maybe.
It was Keim. It was Keim. You talking about his 53-man projection?
I was about to say that one of them said Trey Williams was a sleeper.
Yeah.
Is that Keim?
Keim did a projection, like a little prediction thing, and he has Trey Williams being that third guy, but who knows? We also have Trent Murphy and Preston Smith battling out. They'll be battling out, but I think it's Trent Murphy's job to lose. He obviously has the edge in that. But
it sounds like the plan's a heavy rotation anyway.
Exactly. Preston Smith may lose out in this battle, but he is not going to sit out on the sidelines very much during the games. He's going to be playing a lot. We also have Jamison Crowder coming in, breathing down Andre Roberts' neck.
A lot of people are high on Crowder for his potential.
Coaches have raved about him.
I'm going to throw cold water on that one.
If you get high on Crowder, kids, you got to go and sit down for 30 minutes and calm down.
You know what, though? I mean, he might be another one of these guys that fan favorites. He's a middle draft. What was he? 5th round pick, 6th round pick, 5th.
He was a
4th round. I mean, we all know how hard it is for wide receivers to come in and do well immediately. He obviously has talent. He's got quickness and agility. I think it may be a lot to ask for him to come in as a rookie and displace a seasoned vet. Even if Andre Roberts doesn't have the greatest hands in the world,
right,
he's still a pro, knows how to play the position.
Right.
And he's got a big dead cap number. The team may not want to just sit a guy on the bench who's got a humongous number like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think personally, you give Crowder a year before Andre Roberts gets sent back.
I feel like that's true about
bench.
most of the rookies. You got to give them time.
That's
I mean,
more
the fans
realistic.
The fans get so excited about it, and I am too. But let's be realistic.
Another position group to watch is also going to be our corners. We have a lot more depth here. We've kind of touched on it in our position breakdown, but the wild card, as I mentioned in the blog, is D'Angelo Hall. If he's healthy, he will be the starter, and if he's healthy and good to go, he'll start. Chris Culver will be the other guy. Breland will be the nickel, and this speaks wonders to me about our depth. Like, you think David Amerson now is our 4th string guy, or maybe even 5th string, when last year he was a starter.
Right.
I mean,
that's not a bad thing for us.
Exactly. Depth-wise, right now, it looks really, really good compared to what we've had to deal with. So now Amerson's going to be served a serving of humble pie with rookie Tevin Mitchell in the mix.
Cool. I've heard good things about him.
Same here. Yeah, he showed up really well in the OTAs and minicamp. So it
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think cornerback, more than a lot of other positions, is one where you have to have instincts,
Yep.
and either you have it or you don't. I was a mediocre high school corner, okay, and I had no way compared myself to that. But what I knew enough to know that I didn't have the instinct, And at some point, you can be as physical as you want, you can be as fast as you want, but if you don't just have kind of a sixth sense in your head about where the receiver is going to go and about how to play the ball,
Yeah.
you're never going to be good. And I think Amerson, between his lack of that and his poor tackling, I just wonder if he's ever going to amount to what we drafted him to be.
He probably won't. I mean, he's been here for 2 years now. I don't know. Maybe
It's been a rough 2 years.
yeah, it's been.
I mean,
very
am I
rough.
wrong about my analysis of the position? That's the way I see corner.
No, I mean I thought he looked better his rookie year than he did last year. So
Yeah.
that's the alarming thing. But maybe he develops and shows what he did the year he got 13 interceptions that is in college. I don't know, but
I hold out hope that it is more psychological for him and he gets back into a good state of mind.
yeah.
That's my hope with him.
I don't know if he's in a bad state of mind. I just think he just doesn't have it in terms of instinct,
I think you're right.
more than anything. Because, the good ones can play man. If you can play man well, you're going to be a decent corner. He's never been a good man corner. He just does not do that well. Never has,
He
never
also
will.
didn't run a lot of man defense last
No.
year. That's
No,
part of the issue.
No, we didn't, but maybe, if he'd been better at it, we could.
Yeah. Okay, so
Because Hall is the one who
Yeah.
is obviously an elite corner. Presumably Culliver is too. You've got those two guys and then everybody else. I mean, Breland had his moments, but I mean,
It's still
he's got a lot to go,
better
ways
depth
to go.
than what we've had in
Yeah, for
recent
sure.
years past.
Yeah.
And
under Gibbs we had good depth, but we never did under Zorn or Shanahan. It seemed like
no,
No.
and the thing we all really need to hope for is that D'Angelo is ready to go full speed, because if not, then we have Breland and Culliver as our starters, which isn't bad, but then the back end's not going to be as good. But let's move on. There's another position battle I don't think anyone really is going to talk about because it's kind of a sleeper in my opinion, but Niles Paul is really starting to earn coaches' favor here. He had a hell of an offseason, according to the coaches. They loved what he did in OTAs and minicamp. He's got a guy in front of him in Jordan Reed who's, a hell of a talented player, but can't stay on the field longer than 2 games. So if Jordan Reed gets hurt again in training camp or whenever,
isn't he hurt now?
I think he got hurt during OTAs or something. Yeah.
You know what? I think Niles Paul is such a success story for this team.
yeah,
I mean, he's a guy we drafted in the middle rounds. One of the very few who stuck with the team, got offered a second contract. He switched positions and still made it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have ideal size to be a tight end, necessarily, but he's worked really hard and he's improved and he's become legit. And if
No, sorry. He's the offensive version of Lorenzo Alexander,
yeah,
Well,
that's a good
except
analogy.
Lorenzo Alexander started out as an offensive lineman, didn't he?
He played about every
He was like
lineman position at one point in time.
He was a 4-3 D tackle at one point, and then he played a little bit of offensive line. Then he moved to D end. Then he moved
He
to
played
outside
fullback
linebacker
for a little while. He played, he played everything except quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, Robbie, if Reed is healthy, does Niles Paul start over him anyway?
I mean, Reed would have to play bad, and Niles Paul would have to play lights out, unbelievably well for that to happen. But I'll say this about Paul: he's gotten better every year. He had a couple plays here and there last season where it was bonehead, like the Tampa Bay first play where he tried to catch it low and lateraled it to the guy for an interception.
Yeah.
But he's gotten a lot better every year, and if he keeps getting his chances, he may just take over.
This might just be my pet peeve, but the fact that our 2 tight ends are a former wide receiver and a former quarterback just irks me in the wrong way. I would like us to actually draft a real tight end to play tight end for a change.
Well,
It brings it up a good question, though, because Logan Paulson, is a, quote, classic real tight end.
Yeah.
But the man has got a gigantic cap number. We talked about this on our very first episode. He's got a $2 million cap hit, for a third string tight end. I think if we could ever come up with someone with size and blocking ability, I think Logan Paulson needs to watch out.
Yeah, that's true. Because the thing I hate about Logan Paulson the most is he can't hold on to the football. Like every time he catches the ball, it seems like someone would come up and just pop it out of his hands.
And you're a big guy. Hold on to the ball.
Yeah, seriously. But
Well, and he's another success story. Wasn't he an undrafted free agent?
he was undrafted.
Yeah. We've gotten
And he's made a
more
career.
mileage out of him than you'd expect.
Yeah.
Speaking of undrafted, a lot of people have talked as well. Speaking in the tight end realm, this dude Devin Mahina, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's big. He's like 6'7". I don't know how much he weighs, but he's got size and he's
A lot.
He's been he's someone to keep an eye on as well. He'll stand out at least height wise at training camp.
So that's kind of Robbie's sleeper battle in training camp, I think,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
I think
point.
tight end's gonna be a good battle.
So, Robbie, since you're going to be there, give me one guy on offense and one guy on defense. You're going to be, like, whenever you're there on the field, you're going to be keeping an extra eye on.
Offense is going to be Brandon Scherf. That's
No question.
no question.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. The other skill guys will pop up when they pop up. You know, you'll catch
Sure,
them.
sure.
Defense, probably Preston.
Radio silence.
Yeah, probably Preston Smith and Trent Murphy, because Trent Murphy was a big. I'd probably between the two of them it'd be hard, but Jay Gruden too was very high on Trent Murphy this offseason. So
I'd like to ask you to keep an eye out on D Hall just to see if he's got his old explosion back and his lateral agility given the Achilles.
Yeah.
Because he ruptured it twice, remember?
He
I
did.
mean, he slipped on like getting a pizza or something crazy like that and tore it again.
He slipped on
you
the
know.
floor getting pizza. It's
Talk about a
I'm
bad way
falling,
to go,
I can't
man.
get up.
That's why you don't walk around in just socks, guys. Just go barefoot or wear shoes.
So I'd like to make a personal plea to Robbie to keep an eye out on D'Angelo Hall for us.
I sure will. And of course, I'll be watching Robert as well.
Yeah, of course. And I'd like to make a plea that you keep an eye out on Cobra Kai because you know how I love special teams guys.
Oh yeah.
And if if the cheerleaders are holding practice there, keep an eye out on them too.
Yeah,
You know.
maybe even shake a couple hands with them.
You got to use your peripherals there.
All right.
All right. So with that,
That's all I had for training camp.
That's all. Yeah. Once we get to cheerleaders, training camp is over. That was your motto back in school, right?
Oh yeah, right. Sure.
Okay, and that brings us to our final segment today, guys. And that final segment is the
Redskins Position Group Breakdown.
All right, welcome everybody to the position group breakdown. This time we are tackling my forte. It's the offensive line, and and I'm very excited to talk about it. First off, I'll just list off who we have on the roster on the offensive line. We got Corey Lichtensteiger at center. The other centers we have listed as centers is Tyler Larson from Utah State, Austin Ryder, our 7th round pick from South Florida. Then we have Ari Kwanjo, we drafted in the 4th round from Alabama. And Sean Laval, obviously, Josh Laribas, new starter Spencer Long. So we also have Tom Compton and Morgan Moses as our guys battling out for the swing tackle spot. Then we also have, obviously, Trent Williams, a couple undrafted guys, Tacoby Cofield, and then Bryce Quigley. I'm not sure who he is.
Superstar.
Yeah. We also have Willie Smith, who was a guy who was with us at one point. Now he's come back. He may be a guy to keep an eye on that might kind of surprisingly win that swing tackle spot over Morgan Moses and Tom Compton. He's a little more experienced. So, and then obviously our 1st round draft pick, Brandon Scherf. So, very excited about Scherf. We needed a guy like him on our offensive line. And as I mentioned earlier, he's going to have a trial by fire all training camp going against Kerrigan and J.J. Watt. Spencer Long is another guy to keep an eye on. He's practically a rookie. I mean, he last year saw barely any reps and is now, being thrown into the Wolves as a starting right guard next to Brandon Scherf. So that right side in general is going to be pretty interesting.
We're finally doing it the right way, though, rather than sticking with old guys. I like that.
Can I direct you to Trent Williams here?
Yeah.
He's 6'5", 337, by the way. Everybody knows he was first round pick. And just as a trivia point, he was only a 3-star recruit out of college, or out of high school rather.
That's crazy.
So it goes to show what those high school rankings mean. And he played a lot of right tackle at Oklahoma. Very athletic guy. He ran a 4.8 40. Ran a
He looks even faster though when you watch him.
And when I throw that out there just to show exactly how athletic he is, because when we get to the other guys, I'm going to give their times. His 10-yard split was only 1.7, which is just incredible. Yeah, really incredible. 23 bench presses, arm length 34 and a fourth. But what I really want to ask you more than anything is Trent Williams really an elite tackle in the league?
Yes,
What do you think?
For sure is an elite tackle. I was just watching film the other day on him, just kind of prepare for today's episode. When he's healthy, there is a strong difference between him healthy and him fighting through injuries. Like, specifically, when I was watching the Eagles game, our last Eagles game, Week 16 last season, you can tell he's just so different than what he was when he's healthy. When he's healthy, he's driving guys down 10 yards downfield. He's 110% effort guy. But when he's hurt, you can tell he's just getting by. He's just doing his job and that's it. But for sure he's an elite tackle. He just has to find a way to stop getting hurt, because when he's hurt, it's a struggle.
I'm with you. Even a layman like me, I watch him, and when he's 100%, you watch Trent Williams pull out on an outside run, and he's 20, 30 yards downfield blocking guys for Morris. I watch that, and I just get excited watching it.
Yeah.
Because, Robbie, you told us a while ago that you thought he moved like a tight end.
I for sure. You line him up at tight end just one play, like Patriots did with Nate Solder. You will see something amazing.
Oh, yeah. Hey, well,
be a couple of guys getting concussions as a result.
his arm length was 34 and a fourth. I know there's a magic number for arm length in the NFL. Is it 33? And it's something like that. And what is the big deal with the arm length? Why is that so important?
It's like boxing, really. If you have a long arm length, then you get to your guy before he gets to you. That kind of thing. But it helps, but it's not a necessity. In my opinion, like Brandon Scherf, he has shorter arms than the normal requirement, so to speak, for tackles. But
I find it hard to believe like an inch is going to make that big of a difference.
Exactly. It's all about the technique and the preparation for the guy that you're going against. You study him. What moves does he do? What does he like to do? That kind of thing. It's all about the mental part of it.
And that Trent Williams seems to have in spade. I thought it was interesting that in Oklahoma, he played right tackle for most of his career in college behind Phil Loadholt, who was the left tackle. Is there that big of a difference between left tackle and right tackle in terms of ability to do their job? He transitioned, and he transitioned very well.
I'd say it's if you're, say, switching between positions in, like, after a season, like if I played right tackle one season and then the next season I'm playing at left tackle, it's not that big a deal because you got all the time to just get used to kicking back with your left foot instead of your right. But if you're that backup swing tackle guy that comes in for someone that gets hurt, like Tom Compton, the Eagles game too, I think that I was just talking about. Trent Williams got hurt, and Compton was playing right tackle. He switched over to left tackle in that game. That is a hell of a change to make in a game. Go ahead, Alex. You got something?
Yeah. Well, that actually brings I was debating this with somebody else recently. If Trent Williams is injured to start the season or at any point in the season, I was debating with somebody who was saying, oh, well, you move Scherf over to left tackle. I think naturally you would bring in Moses, whoever's your number 2 guy, in to play left.
Yes.
Is that, I'm right on that, right? That would be the move to do, is you bring in the other guy, because if Scherf is playing right tackle the whole time, and he's going to be a right tackle for 10 years, you keep him there.
I totally agree. If Trent's down for whatever reason, please, I pray to God no, but
I don't want him out for a snap.
I want that next best tackle guy in instead of moving Scherf. That's just going to completely throw him off of what he's already been doing. Go ahead. You got something, Steve?
Here's just some facts on Scherf. He's 6'5", 325, so he's the same height. He's a little bit lighter in weight than at least what Trent Williams is listed at.
Yeah, but you're talking, 10, 15 pounds at this point. That's
Yeah. And Trent Williams is a little older, too, so he's probably put on some bulk, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
He runs a 5.05 40, which is still, I think, incredibly fast
good
for an offensive lineman. Yeah. His 10-yard split was 1.8. It did 23 bench press. He was a redshirt in college, but he started 3 years at left tackle. So it kind of comes back to what you're saying, Robbie. What I was asking about before. He was a left tackle, and I was asked to play right tackle. There's going to be an adjustment, I assume. Obviously, you believe in him, but you also, I think, didn't you tell us at one point you thought he was a better guard than tackle?
I think in the overall grand scheme of things, if I had to place him anywhere where he'd be best, probably guard. But really, you look at our team right now, and I'd argue with you that tackle is our least quality depth on our team right now. I mean, our guards, yeah, they're still kind of an unknown, but you have tons of guys there that can compete for it. But tackle, we have Tom Compton, who's a guy who's been lucky to stay on this team for as long as he has.
We've gotten more out of him than we should have for.
Hey, he's a 7th-round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done pretty well for a 7th-round pick. Nobody wants him to be a superstar.
Totally agree. He showed promise here and there, but last season.
But if he's our only depth, I think that's a problem.
Exactly. And you got Morgan Moses, who's still learning to play in the pros.
Well, let's stop right there. Let's talk about Morgan Moses, because I want to ask you about him. He's 6'6", 318, so he's tall, a little lankier.
Yeah.
His 40 time 5.33, so that shows you how much less athletic.
I ran a faster
at least
40
fast
than him
he is
in my day, by the way.
Well, I don't doubt it. We love you, Robbie.
I don't think I could run a faster 40 than that right now.
I could have it back in my day. I don't know if I could anymore.
Yeah.
You hear that, Scott?
But tell me, come draft me, Scott. But tell me why Morgan Moses doesn't suck, because I think he sucks.
He sucked. He was bad, but he has so much potential. You look at him, he's a big dude, and he still has a frame to build on to get bigger and stronger.
Because he's just tall. Because he's not. His weight is significantly less than the other two guys.
That's true. And really, the thing is, it's always been. You look at him back in his days in college. You look at him last year when he got his chances. It's technique. It's always been technique. He plays too high up. He doesn't have any knee bend. He's off balance. It's stuff that if he really took it in, what the coaches teach him. I know the same in college. He was getting the same coaching on technique as he has been since he's been at the Redskins. It's the same stuff.
Because a lot of fans out there think we need to move Morgan Moses to guard, but it sounds like if he's playing high, I don't see how he can possibly be a guard, especially at his height, right?
Yeah, if you're playing high at guard, you got defensive tackles that'll just destroy you if you're playing too high.
Aren't you also hurting the passing game a bit?
The what? Passing game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you be blocking the field of vision and all that? High?
You'll be right in the quarterback's lap.
Yeah.
Somebody jogged my memory. We had a guard at one point. He was 6'8" a few years ago. Who remember who I'm talking about? Yeah, he was there for a cup of coffee, and he just couldn't play low enough, and he couldn't get leverage.
Was it the 400-pound guy that we had?
No, that was Mike Williams.
No, it wasn't Mike Williams. See, I stumped you guys. We're gonna play the Jeopardy theme here.
I know who
but
this
the
is.
point is, if you can think of it, you can think of it. But my point is, that guy played way too high, and he was too tall anyway, and he was gone in a year or something from us. So I'm afraid, I don't know. I hear what you're saying about Morgan Moses. I'm just worried that he's not gonna, given what we saw, that his technique is not going to develop, that he's going to be anything more than a backup swing tackle at most.
Well,
that's my fear for him.
Yeah, and I've kind of touched on this in my blog post as well. You got Morgan Moses, that if things finally click for him, and thank God, by the way, that we have Bill Callahan, because I think he is, if anybody, is the one that could fix him and get him, squared away and playing the position right. If that happens, this is a big if too. If he figures it out and can play right tackle, then you can move Scherf to guard and really shore up your offensive line that way. But that's a big if. So it's really just hoping.
Okay, if you have to project in the future, let's go 10 years in the future between who's still on the team in terms of those guys.
In terms
that's maybe Trent Williams is too old. Go 5 years in the future.
Between
who's still on the team? Scherf,
all right,
Scherf, Williams, and Moses.
Between the three of them, Williams will still be here. Scott McCloughan's going to take care of him. Scherf will still be here. I think I don't know. Moses, I don't think will be here.
So we'll have 2 starters, but no backup.
Yeah, I don't. If I had to say, put a gun to my head, he won't. I'd have to say he won't pan out. It's just going to be the same thing every year. Because, as I said, he's been getting the same coaching every year from these college coaches. Even the offensive line coach. I forgot his name. I'm glad he's gone. But even the offensive line coach of the Redskins last year
was it Matt LaFleur?
No,
it was Forrester. Forrester.
Yeah, Forrester. Thank you.
Yeah.
Even Forrester, I guarantee, was teaching them the same stuff. So it's stuff that it's not registering for him. So I don't know.
Well, and at his height, I'm wondering if maybe it's a physical issue for him. Could it
There's
be?
been other big guys who can get good
guess.
leverage and bend properly and everything else. Some guys just aren't very good.
That's true.
Some guys have just don't have it.
Some guys get it, some don't.
Maybe he's the Kwame Brown of, the NFL. A guy who, basketball player drafted by Michael Jordan, #1 overall. He just wasn't very good,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And maybe that's Morgan Moses.
He took
I don't
a
know.
risk and it didn't pan out.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's only a 3rd-round pick. It's not Lord knows this team has wasted bigger draft picks than that, for goodness sakes. Hey, what do you think of the future of Corey Lichtensteiger, Robbie?
I like Corey. I mean, a lot of people... All right, general Redskin fans will say, "Oh, we need to replace him too." But Corey Lichtensteiger is a good center. He did very well for us, and I mean, you can talk to other guys. Mark Bullock pointed it out too. Chris Cooley loved him all year during his film breakdowns.
Yeah, he did.
He was a very good center for us, and I mean, he is not in need of any replacement right now. I know he's not getting any, he's not getting any younger. He's going to get older each year, but. Hopefully, this dude, Austin Ryder, that we drafted can be groomed to replace him. But I'm very happy with what we have in Corey.
Now Corey's, 6'2", 6'3", depending on where you look. He's only 300 pounds, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty small for a center, right?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but, Jeff Saturday was also a small center,
I feel like centers tend to be smaller than... Am I right in that?
Yeah.
Centers tend to be smaller than the rest of the line?
Prototypically, yes. Usually 6'2", 6'3".
And again, as another show of Trent Williams' athleticism, Corey Lichtensteiger is shorter, lighter, and slower than Trent Williams. He's running a 5.25 40, 1.75 10-yard split. He was a 4th-round pick by the Broncos. This is a guy that Mike Shanahan drafted. Yeah. Mike Shanahan loved, brought him here. Mm-hmm. He's got 1 torn ACL already. Do you think that makes any difference long term, Robbie? The torn ACL. He tore it in 2011.
That's a couple years out now.
Yeah, if it did, it would have shown up by now. I'm sure he probably feels it after every game. his knee is sore.
Now he's a recovering guard. He wasn't very good, best I can remember, at guard. Right? Is he better center?
He's definitely better at center. He looked very immobile when he was at guard. He looked like his feet were stuck in mud.
Why is he such a good center? What technically makes him a good center?
He's in more of a support role than he is. At guard, he would face more one-on-one situations. At center, he has that ability where he snaps and then he kicks to his left or right, whichever way he's going, and he can help out.
And I'd like to ask you a technical question too, because
Sure.
What we hear a lot about is how the centers, especially in the NFL, make the protection calls on the line. How does that work? When does that work? And what are they looking at? And how do they do it?
Okay. In that sense, I can only really speak from what we did in college, but it's very similar. The center is the first one up on the line of scrimmage anyway. The offensive line lines up; they're already set. Quarterback's still kind of just walking up to the line, doing his stuff. Center will make the initial call. For us, our normal protection is a half man, half slide, where one side, say the left side, would be the left tackle, left guard, and the center. They'd all kick slide to the left. The right guard and right tackle will be man on man with the guys in front of them. So say we're facing a 4-3 defense. We have 4 defensive linemen in front of us. We'd all get on the lineup, and we'd say 40-40-40. That identifies the front. So we know we have 4 down guys. If we're set to the if the field is to our left side, we'd say loo, which means we're setting outside to the left. That outside backer is our key. So if he blitzed and the defensive end spiked inside to the guard, tackle would just let him go. Guard picks him up. Tackle would pick up that linebacker. It's like gap scheme for that. Backside would take, say for example, that D tackle and that D end. If they did a switch, one of those little defensive end D tackle stunts, DE stunts, they would have to switch it off. You don't have any support from the center for this. If you don't switch it off right, it's going to result in the quarterback getting hit, and you're not going to have a very happy offensive line coach. So the way it works out in most general basic protection schemes is you'll have one side is slide kicking to the one side, and the back side will be in man.
And so the center's key in all this, and the center's observing this and making the call. Now here's the question, the follow-on to this that I have. A lot of times the court, like you have a Peyton Manning, is somebody like that, especially who's doing a lot of audibles on the line. Mm-hmm. How is the center audibling at the same time that the quarterback's doing it?
So, well, that's the thing. We'd come up, we'd make our initial call. Another thing I forgot to mention is in making our general protection call, you also, depending on how good of a team you're playing, if, say, for example, we're playing some All-American defensive end, you generally would set the protection to him regardless, even if you're...
Slide to that direction, you mean?
Yeah, you'd have the slide protection side going towards him every time. But so you'd make that initial call, say we'd line up loo. The quarterback would see something coming from the right side or something else that he doesn't like, and he wants to set the protection to the right, so he'd go Roy, check Roy. And the whole offensive line would repeat that, so we all know what we're doing.
So in other words, there's just 2 people talking over each other right as the snap is about to go, right?
Well, it's initial. We make our calls. We're all set, and then quarterback has the final say after that. Whatever he says, you do, no matter what, even if it's wrong. We have to do that. So the
quarterback could reset the protection then.
Yes,
and overrule the center.
He overrules everything. Basically, the center just gets us in the general direction of what we're going to do. Quarterback either confirms it or changes it.
Now, to tie this back to the Redskins, some of the criticism of Robert Griffin is that he is not able to see the field in such a way that he can effectively direct the O-line to the right protection scheme.
Yeah.
Is that something you saw?
Yeah, I think it's again, it comes down to studying the game, watching it on film, being able to recognize the coverages and the fronts that you're seeing. If they're disguising something, it's all about the prep work and doing all the homework for it. It's again, all stuff with Robert is just mental stuff.
Now we have our 2 starting guards, Sean Laval, Spencer Long. Sean Laval, incredibly strong dude, bench press 33, which is far greater than anybody else we have.
Right, he was
little
the
older.
Guy
He's 20.
Gruden really wanted in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 6'3", 315, so he's a little stout. And again, as the Trent Williams comparison, he ran a 5'2", 940. What do you think of Sean Laval? I mean, he's taken a beating from the media and from the fan base.
Yeah, he's taken his lumps, and I don't know. He's, I think, our starter that we're stuck with at left guard right now. Kwanjo's not going to unseat him unless some miracle he outperforms him and they give him his shot. But I don't see that happening. Laval, I thought, actually was getting better by the end of the year and was showing a more consistent play at left guard. So, yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, well, my one point would be he was also playing a scheme with the zone blocking that really didn't suit him well.
No.
And I'm hoping that going over to Callahan now is going to really help him.
Yeah.
With that body type and the strength, it seems like he's more of a power scheme guy than a zone blocking scheme,
for sure.
right?
That's what he did in Cleveland when he came from there.
Right. And that's why we wanted him, supposedly, because Gruden is a power guy.
Yeah, not to tangent off that, but yeah, Gruden said we were going to run the ball. We're going to be a run first, but I think you both pointed out the stats in your blog posts earlier, or at least Steve did. He passed. That's all he wanted to do was pass. So.
Well, I'm going to get to that in the follow-on to that blog post because I have done some research into his history and everything, and I think it's safe to say that he's very much a pass-first coach.
Well, actually, if you look at my post, I went through his couple
you acknowledge
years in
that.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's a pass-first coach now. There are not many run-first teams left in the NFL. It's usually 2 or 3
Dallas,
guys. That's about
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah, but it's a handful. It's not
San Francisco,
the
maybe.
No.
San Francisco.
And San Francisco, who knows what San Francisco is going to be next.
Pittsburgh with Le'Veon Bell,
Yeah.
big running team, right?
God help San Francisco, by the way.
Yeah. Well, and
I don't mean to tangent too much.
Yeah, in my post, I did point out, though, he ran the ball less with Washington than he's ever run. So...
and yet he had the best running back he's ever had in Alfred Morris.
That's true, but he also had the worst defense that he had.
Why on earth do we have these goal line situations and Alfred Morris doesn't get the ball and hit the A-gap? I don't
know how to answer that, other than the fact that Chris Chester can't block. And,
Darrell Young did really well with that, by the way. He got his chances, and he took them. He had that Philly game last year. I keep going back to that game. He had like 2 touchdowns.
That, to me, is the biggest mistake of what I saw Gruden doing is not enough use of the fullback.
Yeah.
He said he was going to use him, too. Yeah. Remember in the last offseason, he talked about Darrell Young. And
I mean... I feel like if you have guards who are struggling, which we did last year, then a fullback should be your best friend in the run game.
Yeah.
And if you look at Mark Bullock's stats that he put out every week about, I think it was Bullock, maybe it's Hogs Haven. I can't remember who gets the credit for this. I think it's Hogs Haven. They did play count stats by player, and if you read those every week, Darrell Young was getting 20 snaps a game, something like that. Far less than a lot of other people. I don't understand it.
And
I don't get it.
That's a crime.
Yeah.
He's bringing it back to the offensive line. If we have to establish this run game, we've brought in Scott McLuhan, brought in guys for that. Kwanjo is a run game guy. He's not much of a pass blocker. Brandon Scherf is a mauler of an offensive lineman. He gets the job done pass pro most of the time, but he is he makes his money in run game. So we
tell us what you think about Spencer Long, man. We got to get to Spencer Long.
Yeah, Spencer. I really he's an unknown. Not much film of him to look at. I mean, from the pros at least. I mean, you can go back to him in college, I guess, but that's he's so far removed from that now. It doesn't really have anything to do with him now. So he's really just kind of a cross your fingers, wish upon a star that he works out. I don't know. I think
he kind of got the job by default, right?
He did
more than anything.
He was given it, but I think I mentioned it in my blog as well. I think he's going to be a pretty good surprise. Him and Scherf will be a very young, stout right side of an offensive line, and if we can really get this running game going, then it'll make our offense that much better because running game works. Robert has less pressure. It makes everything better.
Now, what do you think of Ari Kwanjo? He's 6'5", 310, Alabama. His brother Cyrus plays. The draft report I saw on him is that he's got major technical flaws and he's got bad knees. What do you think? What do you think of Ari Kwanjo?
Bad knees aside, that's what is. People won't like to hear this. I've kind of fallen off of him a little bit from when we first drafted him, but he's another Morgan Moses in my opinion. He's a project guy. He's gonna need time. I don't know.
Can he be a backup someday?
Yeah, I think he can work into being a solid backup, but as of now, he's not a starting caliber.
And the Trent, for the Trent Williams comparison, he runs a 5.4 340, folks. So that's a whole more than half a second slower in the 40, and his 10-yard split's not too terrible. 1.84 for the 10-yard split.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got the history. He was first team All SEC and everything else. I mean, he played well at Alabama.
Yeah.
Right?
Here and there.
Yeah. What about the back of the roster guys? Is there anybody that stands out to you as a guy who maybe make a difference?
Jacoby Cofield has my eye. He seems like a guy that they have him listed as a tackle, but I think he should get looks at guard too, because he was kind of a slow-footed tackle and probably would be best suited for guard. But I wouldn't expect much out of him. Alex, our center, Austin Reeder, should get some good reps here and there. I don't know if he'll make the team or not. He'll probably be on the practice squad, but
now Cofield's a guy who got a lot of talk around draft time. As a guy who may be a decent prospect, right? I mean,
yeah.
He started 42 games at Duke.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'4", 310. He's got good size. Fairly athletic guy. I thought I heard good things about him.
Yeah, I mean,
excuse me.
There was stuff obviously that came out and that kind of was red flags. Why that shows that if he wasn't, if he didn't have red flags, he would have been drafted. But
what were the red flags?
To me, he looks slow in game. I mean, he may have shown up pretty well in the combine stuff, but he doesn't play very fast to me. Kind of looks.
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm remembering somebody else that had a good report.
Well, I mean, there's obviously a difference between game speed and workout speed because Rashad Breeland ran a slow 40, but he's fast on the field. He chases Deshaun Jackson in practice. But these back end guys, I don't know. And one last name to bring up before we close this is Josh Laribas. He's going to be playing guard, but he's also going to be getting a shot at center too. I think this is his last stand. And
is Laribas going to be playing anything?
If he has to play well at center, this is his last chance, I think.
So he's got to be that third guy to be the backup A for the interior line, is what you're saying?
Yeah, he's got to prove that he can play center and guard. Because
let's be fair to him, because I bash him like just about every week. What does he have any strengths? What positives does Josh Laribas show?
He's better suited for this offense. He's more of a power guy. He wasn't mobile enough for that zone scheme, I don't think. But this is his best chance since he's been here. I don't know. He's not a starter, but he can be a good backup guy for us if he proves that he can be a reliable center. But
hey, I'd love to be wrong about him.
I would too.
If he could pan out, that'd be great. Yeah, and you mentioned the final thing. I guess you mentioned Willie Smith when you started. Yeah. You have any good things to say about Willie Smith?
Just that he's more experienced than the backup tackles that we have right now, and a couple of beat guys have pointed him out to be a sleeper to win that swing tackle job. So, he's just more experienced and has that edge over the younger guys in that regard.
So, give us a prediction. Who's our swing tackle, and who are our backup guards and center?
And how many guys do you see overall? 8 guys?
No, I'm going to say 9 guys. Yep, I'm going to say Trent, Sean Laval, Corey Lichtensteiger, Spencer Long, Brandon Scherf, Morgan Moses, Ari Kwanjo, Reeder's going to be on this practice squad, and then we'll have Laribus, and last one, Smith.
It's only one backup tackle then, right?
No, that's two.
We'll have Morgan and Smith.
Oh, again, Compton's gone?
Yep.
Well, you hear it there, guys. Willie Smith, welcome back to the Redskins then. I want to thank any of our listeners for, sticking with us through this off season. We're finally getting into training camp, and I promise things are going to start to heat up and get much more exciting now. Catch us online at thehogsty.com. You can also get a hold of us at @thehogsty and Hail to the Hogs on Facebook. If you want to send us an email, it's thehogsty@gmail.com. And what am I forgetting, guys? I must be forgetting one of our contact things.
Facebook. We got Facebook, right? You just said that.
Facebook.
Yeah, and a couple of us are on Twitter too, outside of our normal Twitter handle. You can follow me at Deadeye Duncan with a K for Duncan. Shoot me a follow and I'll follow you back.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, but all I do is post occasional photoshoppings of Bruce Allen in movie posters, and I haven't done.
I am not on Twitter and not on Facebook, guys. So if you want to get a hold of me, email me at the website, and I will get it.
Yeah,
send a letter through the Pony Express.
that would be better.
Yeah,
do that.
And Robbie, have fun at training camp.
I sure will.
Okay, and Steve, have fun staying in the air conditioning. And I hope everybody out there has a good week. Bye.
Hail.